Welcome to the Frequency Labyrinth. I am Adrienne McDonald, your host. This podcast is for you if you're done with surface level self-help and ready for something deeper and actually transformative. Around here, we work with ancient wisdom, human design, gene keys, and shamanic practices, not as knowledge to collect, but as tools to live by. This isn't about one size fits all. It's about learning to work with your energy, your design, and your life. This is about integration and embodiment. We go deep here with ancient wisdom, practical integration, so that you can develop ironclad self-trust. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Today we are going to be talking about 3 ways to use your human design to overcome the problem of people pleasing. And the reason why I thought it would be good to do this today is because later in the afternoon, the sun moves into gate 18. Which is traditionally called the Gate of Correction. In Gene Keys, the pathway is the shadow of judgment, the gift of integrity, and the city of perfection. And I felt with integrity being the gift that nothing will pull us out of integrity faster than giving in to people pleasing. But let's be real about judgment for a second. A lot of spiritual spaces talk about judgment like it's this terrible thing that we should never do. But the reality is we all judge. It's part of the human range of emotion and experience and perception. Judgment is how we notice what feels off, what doesn't quite line up, what could be better. And without it, we probably wouldn't refine or improve or evolve. So the shadow of 18 isn't necessarily judgment itself. It's when judgment turns harsh or critical or obsessive, when it gets weaponized against ourselves or others, instead of moving us towards growth. It keeps us stuck in the never enough. I tend to probably use the word discernment more than judgment if I'm trying to differentiate between the two. Now let's talk about that word correction, because it can feel super heavy, as a lot of the language around human design can feel, or at least traditional human design language, almost punitive, like a red pen on a test. But if we look deeper, correction is about being in integrity. It's about tuning ourselves back towards wholeness, not fixing what's broken, but restoring what's out of tune, out of frequency. And this is when the integrity comes in. Integrity isn't about being perfect. It's not about always getting it right by some external standard. It's in the heart of integrity is really wholeness, right? When your inner truth and your choices and your action are all lined up in harmony. And now, this gate feels really personal to me because it's my personality earth placement. And in the Gene Keys, that's known as your evolution, which means integrity isn't really a nice concept for me. It's like sort of how life continually brings me back to this classroom again and again. And every time I betray myself by bending to the people pleasing or living by someone else's standards, I feel that strength of the challenge again, right? And when I choose the integrity path, even when it costs me approval, I can feel the strength of like really being anchored and grounded. And my evolution lives in this tension between judgment and that fragments and integrity that restores. So in every cycle that I go through grows me, roots me, and I get a little bit more anchored in. And so as we talk about people pleasing today, I want you to hold 18 in the background, not as a critic with a red pen, but think of it as more of a tuning fork opportunity. And it's here to help us, see where we maybe gone into a frequency that we really don't want to be in, right? And this is about bringing ourselves back into resonance. So, number one, I'm going to give you 3 things to think about in terms of gate 18, and then I'm going to talk about 3 ways to overcome people pleasing with your human design. So, gate 18, use judgment as a compass, not a weapon. Judgment isn't something to totally exile. I think if you think of it in terms of discernment, it's how we notice what's off. It's the shift in how you hold it. Instead of letting judgment spiral into criticism, treat it like feedback. Get curious about it. What is this showing me about what's ready to be maybe come back into something I resonate with, or a realignment, if you will. And when judgment arises, pause and translate it. Instead of saying this is wrong or this person is wrong, get curious. What is this trying to teach me? What is this? Where is this asking for refinement? Number 2, choose integrity over approval. Gate 18 tests where you compromise yourself to keep the peace, especially through people pleasing. And integrity isn't about being perfect, it's about being whole and being anchored. And each time you honor your inner authority, instead of outsourcing your truth, you strengthen your energetic spine, if you will. And in practice, this is before saying yes. You tune into your human design authority and ask, does this choice make me feel whole or does it make me feel fractured? And last, you got to reframe perfection. Perfection is not the flawless social media way. It's the perfection of a tuning fork where everything is vibrating in harmony, right? Working with gate 18 means learning to refine your life not from shame and guilt, but from being in your natural frequency and being in resonance with your choices and your actions. And in practice, notice where small corrections, small changes, small decisions bring you joy. Adjust your space, shifting a habit, refining your words, using different language. Let the pleasure of being in resonance with something guide you, not the pressure of being flawless, because there is no flawless. And gate 18's energy really becomes medicine when you use it to realign, to restore, to refine, not to punish you. Not to punish you. Now, 3 ways to work with your design to overcome people pleasing. All right. You know what? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you like the 3 probably typical ways, and then maybe 3 ways that you probably will make you think a little deeper. Number 1, the obvious one, anchor into your authority. People pleasing happens when you override your body's wisdom to meet someone else's expectation. Now, whether you're a sacral or emotional or splenic or any other authority, integrity means you have to slow down enough to listen to your body's wisdom. So practice before saying yes, drop into your authority, not into your anxiety. Number 2, let strategy filter the noise. Your design already gives you the built-in mechanism for filtering requests. It's your strategy. It shows you when and where and how to engage with life and when to step back, right? Generators and manifesting generators respond. Projectors wait for the invite. Manifestors inform. Reflectors wait the cycle. When you let strategy lead, People-pleasing has less room to run the show. Number 3, spot the undefined will trap. If you have an undefined will center in your design, this is the classic people-pleaser hotspot. It's overcommitting, over-delivering, proving worth. Even defined wills can get stuck in promises that no longer feel true, but they are a little bit less likely to become hardcore people-pleaser. So practice asking yourself, would I still do this if no one noticed or praised me for it? If not, it's likely people-pleasing and not in integrity. Now, if you don't have a copy of your human design, you can get a free chart on my website, and that link is in the show notes. Now, let's talk about 3 more that maybe go a little deeper. So you watch the crossroads of your profile. People-pleasing often hides in the line dynamics of the profile. So each line has its own integrity leak, if you will. So line 1's people-pleasing shows up as over-researching or over-preparing to quote-unquote earn credibility so that no one can criticize you. The fact of the matter is somebody is always going to criticize you. Integrity is trusting you've built a solid enough foundation and you don't need to prove it endlessly. Line 2, you may people please by overriding your need to retreat and always saying yes to interaction instead of honoring your natural rhythm of, I need my space, I need to withdraw. And integrity is trusting that your genius deepens in solitude and that you don't owe anyone, because this is a projected line, constant availability. Line 3s. Hello, fellow line 3s out there. You might soften or edit the truth to avoid rejection when your trial and error bumps up against others. Line 3s can trigger people. Integrity is letting the mess be visible, knowing it's how wisdom is built, right? Being comfortable with that. But because line 3s like to experiment a lot of people like to say, well, you failed at this, or you didn't take the straight line. That's on them. That's not on you. Line 4, relationships are your lifebloods, which can slide into pleasing everyone to maintain that connection. And integrity is discerning which bonds are true and reciprocal instead of you just spreading yourself too thin. It's got to be about reciprocity. Yeah, got to be reciprocal. Line 5s. The savior role, hello, fellow line 5s. The savior role is extremely seductive, taking on others' expectations and projections to be the hero. It's the Mighty Mouse syndrome. Integrity is filtering which calls are generally yours to answer instead of rescuing by default. This is so freaking hard, especially if you have an open well center in your chart. I get it. Been there, done that. And line 6. You may detach prematurely or hold back your truth to avoid disappointing people watching you, right? Because they're going to look to you as a role model. And integrity is showing up fully human in every phase, student, experimenter, role model, without hiding behind detachment. Because you're going to learn something there when you're in harmony. Now, working with your design means naming these pressure points really honestly and ask, am I shaping myself for connection or am I fracturing myself to keep the peace, right? Number 2, track how your open centers amplify urgency, because that's where you're going to feel the pressure to people please. It's not just the will. Any undefined center that you have in your chart can nudge you into people pleasing because you're amplifying someone else's energy and could be mistaking it for your own. And here's how that can play out. In the head, that's saying yes to relieve someone else's questions or feeling the pressure to find answers. In the ajna, that's agreeing with opinions you don't actually hold, just to avoid conflict or to maybe look certain. Throat, over speaking, over promising so you can be heard or shrieking your voice to keep others comfortable. An open G center is shaping your identity to fit what others expect instead of standing in the truth of who you are. The open G center is a true chameleon. And if you have an open sacral, burning energy on commitments that don't light you up because you feel guilty about saying no. It's the ultimate yes man. Open solar plexus, absorbing others' emotions and bending to soothe or calm them at your own expense. An open spleen, holding on to relationships or jobs or habits too long because you don't want to disappoint others. And an open root is rushing to meet other people's timelines, saying yes just to release the pressure. And integrity comes from recognizing this amplification of energy and pausing to ask, am I pleasing to relieve their discomfort, or am I amplifying a version of this? And this awareness alone can cut out the compulsion. And another question here is like, is this mine or is this somebody else's? And then the third is reclaiming the energy of correction through Chiron. Now, in traditional human design, there isn't a Chiron placement. If you run a chart on my site, you will see a Chiron placement. It's the last number on either side of the chart. I tend to look at the design Chiron because the design section of your chart is the subconscious, and Chiron typically runs through your subconscious. It is known as your core wound. Gate 18 shadow often twists self-correction for palatability. Shaving down your edges to stay acceptable. But the gift isn't really about being more digestible for people. It's about integrity, right? Refinement that restores wholeness, and not to the point where you're almost erasing yourself. And for me, this directly connects to my Chiron in gate 36, which is known as the gate of crisis. And it sits in my natal chart. It's in Pisces in my 9th house. And Chiron is where we feel our deepest wound, but also where we have the opportunity to experience compassion and like the lifelong lesson that it's the wound that will never heal, because that's the archetypal meaning of Chiron. So it's something that we're going to have to deal with throughout our lifetime, but it's where we have the most growth opportunity, if you will. So in my case, the wound lives in turbulence, navigating crisis, holding humanity's chaos, and struggling with the pressure to soothe or fix it. I have the core wound of a crisis of faith and trusting something that's bigger than myself, and also knowing that I don't have to play savior everywhere. And this is where people-pleasing sneaks in, trying to smooth the turbulence so no one else feels it, bending myself to calm the storm. But Chiron reminds me that the medicine isn't in avoiding the crisis, it's meeting with the turbulence with compassion for myself and for others. And so when gate 18 pushes me toward self-correction, I ask, am I editing myself to keep things palatable? Or am I refining it to show up that I can hold chaos with integrity, right? It would be helpful if you would look at your Chiron placement in your chart and figure out what the shadow of that key means and the gift, because that's going to tell you a lot about how you work with or how you default to people pleasing, right? That's why I like coming back to working with my human design and my natal chart, because my awareness across both creates this double vision that's hard to ignore. My human design shows me the mechanics of where I'm likely to override myself and how my energy works and what integrity feels like in my body. And that's what you need to get to. my astrology shows me the archetypal layers. And, I'm an Aries sun that wants to charge ahead, but I'm also a Cancer rising that wants to care for everyone. And that Pisces ninth house stellium I have is always like the quest for the higher truth. And because I do have Chiron in Pisces at 29 degrees in my ninth house, it's that the ache that I want to smooth the world's chaos a little bit, to fix it, to make everyone like, can't we all just get along type of energy, even if it cost me at some level with me not speaking up, right? One of my favorite quotes is, when you have something to say, silence is a lie, right? But if you think that people are going to come for you, and I have the line 5, right? There can be this crisis of faith of wondering like what to trust, of feeling both porous and overwhelmed by it all, right? But Chiron's gift is that it teaches us compassion, and it teaches us that healing is standing in integrity. It's holding the storm without collapsing and trusting that the truth will emerge. And that truth that emerges is real and it's yours, right? So when you look at your natal chart and when you look at your human design, you can map the exact tension points where people pleasing sneaks in and where integrity will call you back. Now, for me, awareness alone is not enough. This is where my spiritual practices come in, my shamanic journeying, energy work, even the simplest of rituals. They're what anchors me. They're what anchors the insight into. It's a lived experience. They're the moments where integrity stops being a concept and more of a felt reality. Because here's the truth. You can't mindset your way out of people pleasing. You can't. You can't logic your way into integrity. You have to practice it. You have to anchor into it. And for me, that looks like using my design to catch the pattern, my astrology to name the archetype, and my spiritual practices to embody it in my choices, in my rituals. And that's how I come back to wholeness. And that's how I work with Gate 18. As my evolution, not as a critic to make me perfect, but as a guide refining me into more resonance and compassion. So as we wrap up today, I'm going to leave you with 3 questions to sit with. Number 1, where am I correcting to be palatable versus refining to be whole? Number 2, how does people pleasing show up in my design and natal chart? If you don't have your natal chart, you can pick it up on astro.com or astroseek.com. And how can I let turbulence guide me towards compassion rather than self-abandonment? And these are invitations, these questions, these reflections are invitations to get more into integrity. We'll be working with this energy over the next 6 days. And that's a real gift. I think a lot of people right now are trying to figure out, I think a lot of people over the past month in eclipse season have realized how much they're out of integrity with themselves and trying to figure out a path out of being out of integrity and being more in integrity, right? Now, if you want to go deeper into this work to see where integrity and people-pleasing and your unique patterns show up in your design, you can purchase your Human Design Energetic Blueprint Report. And it's a personalized guide to how your energy works and where your true yeses live and how to stop betraying yourself in the name of keeping everybody else comfortable. And that link is in the show notes for you to order. And if this episode landed for you, please share it with a friend who struggles with people-pleasing. Sometimes hearing that we're not alone in all these patterns is the first step back to wholeness. And in till next time, keep choosing integrity, keep trusting your design, keep practicing with the experiment, and I'll meet you back here next week with the energy mix for October. And also, of course, remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. Thanks for tuning in today. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. Let whatever landed move through you in whatever way it needs to or wants to. And also, if you want to explore more, you'll find more information in the show notes. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it out or leave a quick review. It helps so much and I really appreciate it. And remember, this work is about integration, and it always starts with self-trust.